So one of my girlfriend's co-workers said, hey, you want a blower? We're going to throw it away. And I said, sure. It didn't run. It needed a carburetor kit put on it. So that's what we're going to be doing today. But, you know, most people, you know, might disregard, you know, it being just a Hitachi blower and think it's not very good. But these were actually really solid blowers. Sold them under some different name brands. The Hitachi is pretty much the same as a Tanaka. So everybody knows that Tanaka makes pretty good outdoor equipment. And so anyways, I went ahead and I pulled the little tube. Just wanted to show you what it looks like. And this here is a model number RB24EAP blower, and it's the Hitachi new Purifier. And so when I got it, it was still full of fuel. You know, I just dumped this out just a few minutes ago, and I was kind of aggravated because I thought, man, I thought I emptied that fuel out the other day and I forgot to empty it out. And so the way that I got it all, the tank nice and dry and get all the fuel out of there real quick, is I took my latest little toy that I've got. I was in a bin store last week. If you're not familiar with a bin store, it's like a Amazon return store. Anyways, I seen this and it was on Dollar Day. So I picked it up and I was like mashing the trigger and it wasn't working. I was like, okay, maybe the battery's dead. Then I was able to charge it up, and then when I mashed the button, it wouldn't do anything. You can see right there. Well, that's not the way this thing works. You've got to hold the button down. And when I tell you this thing is super strong, I mean literally, watch me being goofy. That's how strong that thing is. So if you don't have an air compressor, this is a good find. I'll link this in the description. Like I said, I only paid $1 for it, but I gotta say it works really good, and it's actually supposed to be one of the stronger ones. This one says Gale Force S. I don't know how well you guys can read it. I figured that'd be a good tool. I blew everything off, and I used a little carburetor cleaner to clean around the carburetor. The first thing that I noticed was that the primer bulb was completely dry rotted and busted, and when I opened the little housing up, the filter was completely missing, and I was like, wow, I know this thing's not going to start and run. It needs a new carburetor on it. It's got to be completely filthy. I thought, well, let's go ahead and test it out and see if it's got any kind of compression to it. So literally, it's got some good compression still, so it doesn't seem wore out. I went ahead and reached out to a company called HIPA, H-I-P-A, I believe is the name of the company, on Amazon, and I asked them to send me out a kit so I could do a video on it to show you guys how to do it. You know, it's only 15 bucks, so I thought, you know, hey, if I got a free blower, put a $15 kit in it, this thing will be as good as new. And you know, usually about once every year I'll pick up a free tool or something that somebody just doesn't want, put a $15 carburetor kit in it, and then you've got a nice tool. I'm gonna quit rambling. Like I said, I went ahead and sprayed that area there with some carburetor cleaner. I'm gonna go ahead and put the cap back on the tank. Go ahead and make sure I don't get any kind of trash or anything down in there. And then I've got a few tools that I'm gonna be using today. I've got set aside here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys, you know, what all comes in this kit. You've got several feet of fuel line. You've got a carburetor, 2 air filters, and you got a new primer bulb. You've got a carburetor gasket. You've got a fuel filter, and then you've got a spark plug. Old school, I guess. I like having a name brand spark plug, so I'm not sure which one this is. This one says Savior BPMR7V. I'll run this, but if I have any problems, I'll just switch it out for like an NGK or a Champion. You know, I figure for $15 you get all this. You know, the spark plug's just kind of a bonus. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna set all this back in there. And also, I told you guys that the primer bulb was dry rotted and eat up, but also some of the fuel lines were eat up as well. Just need to do a replacement. It's going to take a few minutes to do this. We're going to go ahead and start out by removing these 2 Phillips head. Man, whoever tightened them up, way too tight. I'm going to go ahead and get these pulled out of here. You can see how long those bolts are. And I've got an ultrasonic cleaner. I'll probably just dump all this in there and let it clean all the plastic up. All right, there we go. So go ahead and put all this in the cleaner along with the bolts as well. They're really greasy. And then now you can see right here, you've got your carburetor, and you can see when I squeeze the trigger there, you're gonna have to remove that linkage. And go ahead and remove this gasket, get it out of my way. Next, you want to remove this little angle bracket right in here. It just is held on with a Phillips head. And that's the good thing about working on these. You know, it just uses a Phillips head screwdriver to pretty much do everything on here. Set that aside, that little screw. Yep, there's another screw right here. I'm just now seeing it. I wasn't paying attention. Here we go. And then next you got to remove your throttle cable. It just pushes out and pulls up just like that. And then now it's removed except for these fuel lines. And you'll want to make sure that you pay attention which fuel line goes where, because you have one that goes to the carburetor and then you have a return. And so you'll have to make sure that you put them back the same way that you take them off. All right, so I told you guys that you needed to pay attention to where, you know, which line goes into the carburetor and where. And so I'm gonna go ahead and mark my new carburetor with just a black line with a Sharpie, and that black line represents the big grommet that goes into the gas tank. I just wrote it right here on the box, big grommet. And so I know that this one right here on this side goes to the small grommet. And so when you're an old fart like me, you know, it's kind of hard to remember some of this. So you can see the little grommet there goes to this one here, and the big grommet goes to the one that I've marked on the new carburetor with this black line. Like I said, when you're an old fart like me, your memory is not as good as it should be, and so I don't want to pull this thing apart and not be able to put it back together and it run. Now, if you guys do this every day, then you ain't gonna have no problems remembering, but I don't do this but maybe once a year, once every couple of years, and just doing it to tinker around and maybe help somebody out and show them how to do it, and, you know, not spend a lot of time or money doing it. So anyways, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna remove the fuel line right here. I'm just gonna pull it off, and I don't care if the line breaks because I've got all new fuel line. And in fact, this one here looks like it's gonna just pull right out of the tank. And I believe this one here might be the one that has the fuel filter attached. The big grommet line is the one that has the fuel filter down in the tank there. So just so you know. So the way that I get the fuel filter off is I just pulled that line up and I reach inside with a pair of these pliers and I just pull on it, and it comes out just like that, and it's actually about to break. So I just grab a hold of that fuel line, try to feed it down into that grommet, and you want to be careful, don't damage the grommet because it doesn't come with a replacement, so be careful with it. In fact, the grommets on this one's very flexible, so they don't even really need to be replaced. But look at that fuel filter. You can see that's had some nasty old gas in it, and it's just disgusting. So yeah, you definitely needed a new one. I went ahead and pulled the fuel lines out of those grommets, and then I thought, well, I'm gonna go ahead and jump to this. I was gonna put it in ultrasonic cleaner, but I didn't feel like listening to that thing for 30 minutes. But anyways, I'm gonna go right here, and I'm gonna pop this primer bulb out. Now you'll wanna put it back in the same way, and believe it or not, you know, you can goof this up. So you see how this little nipple's sticking higher than the one on the other side? The replacement here does the same thing. So you'll want to put it in that same exact way, or it's not going to work. Probably better to use a screwdriver so you don't hurt yourself. Got that one side pushed down, push down on this other side, and keep in mind, like I said, you want to put it in there the same exact way. So the tall side is going to go back just like this, and all you do is just take and you push it in the same way as that one pushed out with those tabs. This one is going to just push right back in, and there you go. You can see that high side is right here and the low side is right there. We got a new primer bulb now. It's nice and flexible, but yeah, there we go. Yep, nice and flexible. And so that should work out perfect. Went ahead, like I said, instead of putting these in the ultrasonic cleaner, I just cleaned them in the sink with a little bitty, you know, scrub brush I got from Harbor Freight. You can get like a 3-pack of these for like $3 or $4. They're really cheap. You can see I just put a little Dawn on there, and it cleaned everything up, you know, nice and clean. And then I cleaned the air filter housing. It literally took me like 5 minutes to clean everything up. So You know, when I go to put it back together, I'm using all nice and clean stuff. I don't want to get no contamination down in there. You can see the bolts, I cleaned those as well. And then I sprayed everything off with this little tool. So this thing works great, especially if you don't want to listen to an air compressor pumping up. That thing's awesome. Now next, this kit here comes with 2 different fuel lines. And so you've got a smaller diameter and a larger diameter, okay? Your smaller one is your fuel return, okay? And this one, the larger diameter, goes to your fuel filter, and it goes to your carburetor. So this is what brings fuel in. This larger line here is gonna slide down into that little hole on the grommet. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, sometimes these can be a little pain in the butt if you don't know what you're doing. But what you'll wanna do is take a pair of scissors, and you want to take and cut it as thin as freaking possible to give yourself something to pull with. And who knows, I might be able to cut it with these scissors, and I might not be able to. We'll try it and see. Yeah, it's kind of being a pain. And I'll see if I can split it a little bit. Might have to use a razor knife to cut it a little bit better, or I might be able to split it off like this. But this line is really, really tough. So you just need a little piece to grab a hold on to. But you want to make it thin enough where you can pull it through that grommet and get it far enough into the tank to where, you know, you can reach in there and grab it with. So you want to make some real thin slices in it. And like I said, this line's pretty tough. You can pull on it pretty hard. So that's why I'm cutting it down to a real fine tip. You can see right there. You can see I've trimmed this way down. So when I go to slide it through that hole, and this is always a pain in the butt. I don't know if you can see down into that fuel tank, but I can see that fuel line poking out. And so that's where these pair of pliers come in handy. They got the little bend in them. And so what I like to do is just reach in there and grab a hold of that fuel line and pull down and feed it through and pull on it at the same time. And also another trick you can do is lubricate that fuel line going through that grommet. If you got a little bit of WD-40 or something, put you a little bit of penetrating oil on that just so it can slide in that grommet and lubricate it. Or if you got a little bit of silicone, that works good too. Just a little bit of silicone on there to soften that grommet up a little bit and make it slick where you can feed that line through there. So of course I just grabbed the WD-40 because that was the closest to me. And I'm sorry, I'm a little shaky. I'm on some prednisone. I've got gout really bad, and I'm taking Cristex infusions for my gout, and then also they give me some cancer medicine called methotrexate, and I just can't really hardly work on anything or do much anymore because I get so weak and tired. But you know, I like tinkering still with stuff. I ain't dead yet. I'll reach in here, grab that line, and pull down on it while forcing it down through that grommet. Might need another little squirt of WD-40 on that line. There we go. Do everything you can to make it easier on yourself. But like I said, you want to give yourself enough line so when you put that fuel filter in there, it lays all the way down flat in that tank so you're not starving yourself for fuel. But you'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. Now it's starting to pull through a little easier. Alright, so next you just take your scissors and you just want to cut it off. You just take your fuel filter, and sometimes it'll push up on there, and sometimes you might have to take a cigarette lighter and just heat it for just a second. Then you want to take your filter, you just want to push it back down in your tank and try to push it in there and make it lay flat as possible. You might have to shake it around a little bit and move it around. Might have to take and push it around in there with a pair of pliers to make sure that it fits far enough down in there to where, you know, like it's going to lay flat and lay further down here instead of more up at the top. You want it at the lowest part of the tank there. Now, I'm not used to doing this every day like some people, and don't do this for a living or anything, but I forgot the little ring that goes on around the fuel filter. Some of them have it, some of them don't, but I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and pull that little ring off that come on the original, and I'll stick it on here. And plus I needed to have a little bit more slack so that fuel filter will go all the way down into the bottom of that tank, because when you're holding it, I mean literally you know, it's pointed down, so you don't want to starve this thing for fuel. So I pulled a little bit more line in it, and then now I'm just going to take and just drop it down in there, and now it fits down in there perfect. So this is the larger line, and this is how much you're left with. You've got plenty of extra line with this kit. They did a good job at providing you with enough line so you don't cheap out and not have enough, and you know, you've got plenty to cut it off like this. Now for the shorter line, you can see I've went ahead and cut it down to a little taper, and you know, if you want to, you can save these little tails that I cut off. And if you're into pan fishing, I'm telling you what, you put that on a hook right there, I'm telling you that would be a tough little lure, and them little fish ain't gonna be able to tear that fuel line very easy. So I've got several pieces here that you could just take, and instead of buying some Bobby Garland fishing lures, save yourself some money. I guarantee you them are going to be hard to tear off, and that's going to be attractive for a little fish seeing that little tail popping around in the water. Just a little tip. Just saying. I'm just saying. My girlfriend's laughing at me, but I tell you what, you do that, I guarantee you're going to catch some fish. I'm sorry my big ass hands are in the way, but I've got it pushed down in there now, and I have to turn it this way so I can see what the heck I'm doing. And I'm going to reach in there with these pliers, and I'm going to grab that little tail, a little Bobby Garland tail there. Laugh it up, girlfriend, laugh it up. She's sitting here behind the camera just smiling like a possum. But anyways, I'm gonna grab that tail right there, and I'm gonna take me a little bit of WD, and I'm shaking. My goodness, I'm shaking so bad. I'm sorry, guys. So anyways, you can see I'm feeding it down through there and pulling it out. And keep in mind, this is the return. Gonna need a little bit more WD. It dries out pretty quick. Alright, so I went ahead and got this smaller line fed into the tank, and then once I got it fed in there and pulled out a little bit, I went ahead and cut it off so it was only sticking down in the tank, maybe about a little over an inch, you know, not far, because like I said, this is just your return line, and then this is your inlet line right here, the larger one. And so next, what we need to do is go ahead and get your carburetor, and you can see, let me turn it around here. You got them side by side. This one here is the new one, this is the old one, and you need to transfer some of the stuff over. You've got this little piece right here that holds the linkage for the carburetor, and you're going to have to take this off and put it in that little hole right there. And the way that you would do that is here on the very bottom. You've got this, well, this one comes off right here, but you can see right here on the very bottom, you're going to have to really focus in on this good. There's like a little E-clip right there, and you're going to have to push that off on both sides, and then this will slide off. But probably going to have to do it off camera, because I'm probably going to need some help with it, as shaky as I am. Like I said, I'm going to pull back on that little E-clip, and once it pulls off, I don't want this thing to go flying, because I'll never be able to find it if I do. So we're just going to pull back down on that and pull it off and just transfer it over to the new one, so we'll have a way to control the throttle. So I took a pick, and my girlfriend took another pick, and we just grabbed up on each side and pushed down, and then now you're able to retrieve that, and you can see it's got a little groove in there with that little E-clip fit in there. So now, like I said, we're going to have to set the old carburetor aside, and then, you know, make sure your hands are nice and clean. You don't want to get any contamination on the carburetor. And you can see right there, that looks like that's going to have to be drilled out. Man, that kind of sucks. Alright, so I am going to have to drill it out. So I guess the best way to drill it and drill it safely is to just go ahead and take this carburetor and just go ahead and put you some tape over it, so that way you don't get any shavings on the carburetor, and you know, get it down in there, and you know, thing not run right because it's got trash in it. So I'm just gonna wrap it a couple different times in case I accidentally poke through that tape. Hopefully everything goes good. I wasn't really planning to drill this out, but sometimes you gotta adapt and overcome and do things you don't want to do and step out of your element, and you got to do it. So anyways, I went in there and I found a drill bit that would fit right in here, and there's no play in it, so that should be the right one, hopefully. And so what we're going to have to do is just be very careful and not try to do it, put a lot of pressure. Just let the bit do the work and take our time and not poke ourselves and do nothing goofy. This might be actually pretty good to put in a vise. If you got a little vise that, you know, clamp it in and drill that out. But like I said, you don't want to put a lot of downward pressure on there, because if that drill bit bites in there, it'll run right through that plastic, and you don't want to do that. So just take your time, and shouldn't be too bad. All right, guys, so again, we're gonna have to drill that out there to that size right there, and I'm pretty sure I got the right drill bit. Now, I was going to use my 18-volt stuff, but I thought, nah, I probably need to use something a little bit lighter where I control it better. This is a 12-volt, and I'm going to use a little anchor lube on the end of this bit, and that way, you know, you want to use something thick instead of just like a WD-40. This anchor lube's pretty thick. You know, if you don't have any anchor lube, then you can always use grease. And the reason you could use grease is, like I said, if you want something that's going to be thick, so when those shards come off of there, you don't get a lot of metal shavings everywhere. This just helps lubricate it and keeps it cool. This stuff's water-based, and it's meant for drilling hard surfaces and things like that. And so I'm just going to try my best to let the drill bit do the work, and that's probably a little bit more than what I needed, but I'm going to try to go real slow. And I went ahead and just set the clutch down to about halfway, because literally I don't want to put a whole lot of force on this. I'm just going to let the bit do the work. You can see right there it's starting to bite, and it's starting to get warm. You can see right there it's starting to bite into that metal. And I'm going to take right now, just to be safe, and I'm going to wipe some of those little shards of metal off. And you can see there's quite a few on the tip of that blade, or that drill bit right there. I'm going to go ahead and just pull that off, because like I said, when you're working with carburetors and stuff like that, you want to be as clean as possible, because it just takes just a little speck of dust, dirt, metal shard to get down in that carburetor and junk it up. So I'm just going to put a little bit more lube, and so we're going to go ahead and start drilling again. Oh, there it goes. I was able to punch through it, and I felt it, and then I pulled back. I'm just going to try to shake off all the metal shards. You can see right there, there's a glob. Now I'm going to test fit this little brass piece and see if it'll fit, or if I need to drill it out any bigger. It looks like I might need to file it. I might take a little file, if I've got one that small, and just run it in there, because it feels like it's going to go through there. Alright guys, so if you ever watch the A-Team, when something, you know, good happens, you know, Hannibal walks out there with a cigar and he says, "I love it when a plan comes together," and he puffs on that cigar. Well, I got lucky today, and I had a good thing happen. So I took this 3/16 drill bit, and you guys seen me drill out that hole. Well, this little brass piece wouldn't just slide on there. And so I knew it was the right damn size, but it probably just had a burr on it. And so probably a couple months ago, I bought my first ever tools from Walmart, because they're just super cheap, the little hyper tough files, but they work really well. I paid like $5 for these or whatever. They're a little bit more money if you go to Harbor Freight and get theirs. So I just grabbed the little cheapies from Walmart, and one of the files in the kit is just a round file. You know, it's smaller than like a chainsaw rat tail file. And so I was able just to get in there and just barely file the burr off on the inside of that where I drilled that hole out. And then once I took and got that burr off of there, then guess what? That fit in there absolutely perfect. And that's why I said, you know, I love it when a plane comes together, because, you know, any other time I wouldn't have been able to drill it and get that filed so perfect. But anyways, before I put this in and put that clip on there, I'm just going to put a little dab of maybe some anchor lube or some grease or something on there, so that can freely rotate and not bind up and all that, and so we won't have any problems with it. And then we're going to try to put that E-clip back in there, and that's going to be a booger. All right, so you don't have to do this. I'm just OCD with stuff. I can't help it. I was going to put just a little dab of that anchor lube on there, but I was like, why? I've got some red and tacky grease in a can, and so I was just going to put just a little squirt right there, and that way, you know, it can spin freely. I'm just going to put it in there just like that. And I know this is not necessary, probably not the best thing, but I figured, if it helps spin, then that'll work out good and give it a little bit of lubrication to spin on whenever you squeeze that throttle. And so I'm going to try to wipe a little bit off. I don't need quite that much. I just want a little bit where those two surfaces connect. And then again, I'm just going to take, and I'm going to try to put that clip on there as easy as possible. Oh, I think I got it on there. I think I might have got it on there, guys. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Man, I am literally going to leave here right after this video, and I'm going to get me a damn lottery ticket. I'm not even joking. Yep, I got it on there. And that thing seems to spin real free. Look at that. That should work out good. Alright guys, so next, remember those two screws we pulled out of the top of that carburetor right here in the very beginning? Well, we're going to leave those aside and go to the new carburetor, and you're going to have to remove these same screws just like that. And you're going to have to remove the other one just like that. The reason you're going to remove those is you've got this little bracket here that fits on. And it's kind of hard for me to see because this damn light's in my eye. Just to be honest with you. Let me get it bent back there, and I should be able to get it. There we go. I knew Daddy'd get it. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Alright, went ahead and put that other screw in there and get it tightened down. Tighten this other side down. Look at there. Now I'm just going to hold it steady, and I'm going to operate that linkage. And you can see when I put that grease in there just a little bit, just to help it move a little. And with that brass is softer, so it's going to wear into that steel, and that's going to be like a little bushing for it. But I just thought I'd help it along with a little bit of grease. I can't help myself. I try to think about ways to help things out. And I was like, oh, it's like me. If I had a little, extra lubrication in my joints, I could move a little faster. But anyways. All right, guys, so off camera, I went ahead and ran this little fuel line right here. And this is the fat line coming out of the carburetor, going to the primer bulb. And that is the suction line. And the way you can check it is pull the line off of right here, stick it up to your cheek, and mash the primer bulb. And if it sucks, then you know that that's correct. If it blows, then you know that's not the right one. So it plugs in right here on the short nipple, and so you've got the long one left. Okay. We went ahead and put this bracket back on there, got the line on there and everything. And next you want to take, and you're going to have to reuse your old intake gasket. And then also they provided another gasket that I would assume that goes behind this, between these two pieces here. Now, when I took it apart, it didn't have any gasket back there. And so I'm going to try it and use it. And so what I'm going to do is just put it on there just like that. Go ahead and put my bolt through there. Just go ahead and push in bolts through there. And try to hold on to that gasket because you don't want to tear it when you're feeding those bolts through there. And it is a nice tight fit on that gasket. So when you do let off on the bolts, they're not just going to fall out. So that is a plus. Have it go through there just like that. And then you're going to take the original gasket, and it fits up in there just like that. So you're going to put it back on, Now, I wasn't sure if I was going to have to reuse this one or not, but I'm going to have to. And then these lines, I'm just going to go ahead and, I'm not even going to route them just yet. I'm going to go ahead and get this gasket lined up and get these bolts lined up. And I'm going to get it snugged up just a little bit so it's not wobbling all over the freaking place. I'm not going to tighten it completely up just yet because who knows, might have to take it off if something is not correct, and I'm bad for that. It's snugged up, but it's not tight. And then for me, this helps me kind of determine where I need to cut my lines going into the carburetor and going into the back of that primer bulb. And so there's another line that's going to have to go in the back of that primer bulb. And like I said, I should be able to reach through there and connect it. That's why I didn't cut anything, because like I said, I'm bad about routing these lines. I don't want to cut one too short and not be able to control it. Now I wanted to show you right here where I got that linkage hooked back up. You can see it's nice and smooth. And all right, stay tuned, guys. All right, so next you got this little line that's here in the front. It's the smaller diameter line. This one is going to go right here on the back of the primer bulb. It's going to be on the longer nipple on the primer bulb, and this is just a return line. And you know what you can do is just kind of poke it back in there and kind of, you know, pre-measure to where, you know, it's going to need to be, so you don't have too much. So like I said, I'm bad at this part. I try my best to get it where it needs to be, but sometimes I cut them a little too long. Anyways, we'll figure it out. So what I like to do is just try to get it on, get it started. All right, you got it pushed on there, and again, that is just a return line. So next, you're going to want to hook up the fatter line here, and this is hooked to the fuel filter, and then it goes directly into the carburetor right there. And so this line is just so easy to get to. You want to save this one for last, and when you go to cut it, you know, just make sure you don't cut it too much off of it. Make sure you have enough. And you can see right there, pushing it up on there like a pair of britches. There you go. Look at that. Nice and snug. And you got nice line going right there into the carburetor from the fuel filter. And this is your return. And you should be good. Should be good to go. Got to tighten these bolts up. Snug them up. Like I said, you don't want to go crazy stupid with it. You know, like whoever put these on here had really torqued these things down. So you just want to go back and forth a little bit at a time till they're nice and tight. But that should be good right there, guys. So everything seems to be fitting like it should. And then now you've got your air filter housing. You got these little hooks right here. You got these little bars right there. You just push them on there just like that. And then next, you grab your air filter. There's a couple different ones, and I know they're a little deformed, but that's fine. There's really nothing to these. They just kind of fit around the perimeter right here. I mean, Hitachi didn't use the best filter for these, but it is what it is. A lot of times these things will be disintegrated down to nothing. So if yours don't have one, well, you know, like mine did, then it's probably just so far disintegrated it's not even funny, so you can't even use it. So you can see right there, it just fits around in there. And then we're going to test this to see if the choke works, and you can see that it does. And then you just take and close this up. Should fit underneath there, and then it's locked in place. And so now you got a new primer bulb, new air filter, new carburetor, and new fuel lines. So only thing missing now is just some gasoline. Now I could go ahead and replace the spark plug, but I think first I'm going to go ahead and see if it runs with just the stock plug in there. Before I go ahead and replace it, I'm gonna take it outside and put a little gas and oil in it and pray that this thing works. This is ethanol free fuel and it's 90 octane. I'm guessing 50 to 1, maybe a little stronger. That should be close. You see I've got a nice little mix in there. Yes, first we need to prime it, see if that works. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, oh, there it goes. 8, 9, there's 10. All right, that's a good sign. And let's see if I can get it started. Well, she's smoking a little bit because there's no telling, you know, somebody probably mixed a lot of, you know, oil like I just did and made it real strong, and there's probably a little oil in the muffler because I've been turning this thing upside down and moving it. But hey, it runs and it seems to run good. Went ahead and killed it, but let's try it again. Let's see if we can start it again. Guys, well, as you've seen, it runs good. It's got a little smoke. Since it's running real good, I might just let that old oil burn off of here. Just run it real hard for about 30 minutes and it'll probably quit smoking. But as you've seen, it's very powerful and it was very responsive and it runs good. This was a free blower and just a $15 carburetor kit, and you know, it come with everything. Come with a spark plug, which I didn't replace it because I wanted to see that this one was running good. So this one probably has a better brand spark plug in it, so I just left this one in there. And come with a carburetor, which we replaced. We drilled it out, made sure everything fit, and you know, it come with 2 air filter elements. And so, you know, if you're interested in this carburetor kit, I'll link it in the description. I am Amazon affiliate, and obviously I wouldn't suggest it to you if it was a piece of crap or it didn't work. I proved that it worked. And you know, it just tickles my pickle whenever you get to work on something like this that doesn't work and you make it work. You know, I've seen you know, on social media there's a guy that says, you know, if you want nice stuff, you got to take old crap and make it nice. If you don't want to pay for something brand new, spend $15 and learn how to put a carburetor kit on something. Save yourself some money and make those rich people going out and buying all those nice new toys, you know, make them buy it and make them throw it out, and then you get it and you fix it and you laugh at those people because they don't know how to do it. And literally it just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, and a lot of times you can find the video on YouTube. Somebody's done it before you, wants to help you out and wants to show you how to do it. And that's what I try to do here on my YouTube channel. So if you would take a second, please like and subscribe to my channel. And you know, I've got about 600 videos, guys, so check them out. And like I said, please like and subscribe. That's how I keep making more and more content. And if you buy a carburetor kit from my link down below, it doesn't cost you guys any more, but it does help support my channel. I might make a quarter on it, but you know, a little bit of money here and there helps. And so it just helps keep me motivated, helps keeping me buying more products and bringing you guys more stuff. The more subscribers, the more likes, the more comments that I get, the more it helps me. So if you would, please like, subscribe, comment, share. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching. See ya. Watch this. All right, one more go.